Elon's biographer, Walter Isaacson, was on TV earlier this week, and let's take a look at what he said.
Incoming missiles from all sides.
Yeah.
And one question is, he feels it's coordinated, that the whole administration, everybody's coming at him for political reasons. I don't think that's true. I don't think there's some top-down Biden administration, let's do this and this. But I do think you got regulators in all sorts of places that generally feel, hey, I can do well by taking on Musk. They tend to not be politically aligned with him. They're part of bureaucracies, and he's got a lot of incoming missiles. This SEC one is basically about how well did he report when he started buying Twitter shares back in 2022. And you know what? It wasn't as if he had the world's greatest reporting standard saying, okay, I've reached this percentage.
Right, and it said all along he was going to be a passive investor with some of those things.
You know what? I mean, this is Musk. I was there. It's chronicled in the book day by day. He's there being a passive investor. Suddenly he's flying to Hawaii to borrow Larry Ellison's house. He gets mad at Parag Agrawal and the other things. He changes his mind. Changes his mind 4 or 5 times. We can see it over a weekend, both in Hawaii and up in Vancouver. So when the SEC says, were you a passive investor or not, you know.
You saw it in action. You saw it in action. There was reason that he could have very well have been well-intentioned and truthful when he was making those statements on it.
Well, it's also true that if you've watched him, he can change his mind.
Imagine a person that can actually change his mind. Obviously, that's definitely a positive for Elon Musk. Now, when it comes to political investigations coming straight from the top, is it just a coincidence that Elon Musk is under so many investigations, including Tesla? Well, I think this little clip reveals the answer to that question.
Mr. President, do you think Elon Musk is a threat to U.S. national security? And should the U.S., and with the tools you have, investigate his joint acquisition of Twitter with foreign governments, which include the Saudis?
Worthy of being looked at.
Now, the president did say in that statement also that he's not saying that Elon Musk is doing anything inappropriate, but saying he's worthy of being looked at sort of suggests that. And of course, a statement like that from the president would start multiple investigations, likely. And that's exactly what we have seen happen. This news clip was posted on November 9th of 2022.
Some of the Delaware stuff, and I'm curious what you think of the compensation situation.
I find that baffling. I mean, you're quoted in my book when they give out that compensation package saying this is a real stretch. If he can pull this off, it will amaze people. If he can get through, I think there were 5.
There were 5 targets, or 5 or 6 targets, both on market cap, but more importantly, I would argue, operationally.
Right. How much he could put out, how much revenues, how much market cap. You had to go through all of these
and
games.
Then you had to hold it for 5 years, too.
Do it for 5 years. And he gets nothing except if he goes through these things. And he says, okay, I take the bet. 2017, going into 2018, the whole place seems to be going bankrupt. People like yourself are saying, no way it seems that he will get to these goals. He takes it, he does it, they pay him. I cannot imagine how a Delaware Chancery Court judge, I guess it is, could say, all right, do over, you don't get the money.
I was looking at Tesla stock for a few years before I became an investor in early 2019, and I just wasn't really going to go and invest in a company where it didn't seem abundantly clear that it will definitely become profitable. Once that became clear to me, then I became an investor. You know, I wouldn't have had much of an issue if this lawsuit decision was made, let's say, half a year or 1 year after the compensation package was approved. In that case, okay, whatever. But taking away this compensation after it has been awarded, after all the performance goals have been met, to me, that's just theft. If shareholders really thought it was outrageous or not fair, they would have made a big fuss. Not just a guy with less than 10 shares, but people with millions of Tesla shares. How come they were completely quiet? Do you think these people are stupid? Do you think they don't realize, yeah, Kimball Musk is a brother of Elon Musk, and therefore, obviously, Kimball Musk likes Elon Musk and they have a special relationship because they're family? Do you think these wealthy Tesla stock holders don't understand that? Obviously they do. And Tesla stock investors, they understand what kind of a relationship that Tesla board members have with Elon Musk. And to me, it has always been more of a positive than a negative, because I think this makes Elon Musk see the board more as a friend rather than an enemy that he has to fight against constantly just to get anything really innovative done.
What's the next step? What happens?
It could go to the
this?
Delaware Supreme Court. I assume, and you've seen it in the Wall Street Journal today, I assume that Tesla and other companies like his will pull out of Delaware because you can't trust it now. And you see Nevada making a big run to say,
Texas.
And Texas. You know, I've tried to be objective in my book. I see all the things. I can see why people are furious at him. I can't see how you take the guy's compensation 5 years after it's been granted and say, oh, no, the deal that 75% of stockholders made, we're just going to revoke that and take the money away.
I mean, it's bizarre. Even the purchase of Twitter and other things along the way. Like, what? It's crazy how it's all
and if
tied
you
up in
read,
this
I think there are more than 200 pages. I read, of course, the thing. It was, I don't want to go too far here, but it was somewhat politically tendentious. You know, does the world's richest man need to, as opposed to the law says that. Yeah.
Right. And look, to me at least, I don't know if you agree with this.
And shareholders voted on it. That was the...
So overwhelmingly.
Really, but if you look through that decision, they're claiming that effectively that independent board isn't so independent, which, by the way,
that has an odious smell.
May very well be true. Right? It may not be as independent, and they may not have may not have negotiated as hard as they should have. I think we could probably all agree that that's the case. Having said that, there's this idea that because they were this independent board and they endorsed it, that the shareholders agreed to the deal because they endorsed it, meaning that this misrepresent. The argument is that effectively this independent board misrepresented themselves as being independent, and therefore that.
There was no major shareholder looking at Kimball Musk and other people on the board.
I agree with you. I'm just saying
they could look at that deal and they could read about it in the deal book column of the New York Times. It had it exactly right. And they say, here's how we voted. And even if there was some, non-independence on the board, you can go in then and say, wait a minute, this doesn't smell right. But to go in after he's accomplished every single one, or almost every single one of those goals, gotten the money, use it to buy, then say, no, we think 5 years ago was wrong. It's ridiculous.
So you think the Delaware Supreme Court would overrule it?
I think it should.
I 100% agree with Walter Isaacson. I think the decision should be overruled, but will it be overruled? To answer that question, I think it's important to know the home state of the current president. And do you think that the current president is a good dear friend of Tesla? I mean, the company that he refused to even mention for a long time. Just the word Tesla would not come out of his mouth for a long time. And in 2021, the White House hosted an EV summit, inviting executives from the big three automakers, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, while Tesla was not there. Not because Tesla did not want to be there, but because Tesla was intentionally not invited. So keeping all of that in mind and knowing that the current president is from Delaware, I think it's a bit less likely that that decision would be overruled. I am not saying it will not be overruled, I'm just saying that the chances are slightly lower. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in tomorrow's episode.